Welcome to Abstract Illusions Radio with host Jennifer Hillman. The show explores and reveals the human potential through creativity. So enjoy the show to create a life you love.
Hello everyone, this is Jennifer Hillman and thank you so much for listening to Abstract Illusions Radio. Today's guest, Ameera Beth, is a transpersonal spiritual healer and Atlantean High Priestess, author and retreat leader. She works with the Divine Source as a conductor for deep connection to spiritual mastery, secure sexuality, and transcendent into our true form as human angels. She deeply connects with the Atlantean and Lemurian energies, as well as dolphins and all sea creatures. Ameera is especially connected to the mirror world and considers mirror as being part of her family. Ameera sees clients on a healing space and by phone and Skype. You can contact her through a ministry and about her ministry and mentoring service. And it's ameerabeth.com is the website?
That's correct, ameerabeth.com.
And Ameera Beth is one of those people that I have had on before, and she is so informative and so brilliant in all that she does. And I really been listening to her and seeing what she's doing about the energies going on today and what is going on. There really is a parallel situation going on with being Atlantis and the present situations, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Do you think it's just we haven't learned our lessons or we want to learn them again?
Well, a little bit of both. The first or the last incarnation of Atlantis, which was about 13,000 years ago, is, the spiral of time that we're on now is very similar to that spiral of time and very similar to the events that have unfolded that led to the fall of Atlantis.
Now, there's been a lot of speculations on exactly what happened to Atlantis. Why don't you go over a brief history of Atlantis and what it represented and what energy it was about?
Okay.
That culture.
So Atlantis was a landmass, I guess we'll call it, that existed for several hundred thousands of years. So originally it was Mu, that was the motherland. It was the original landmass. So then at some point the landmass is separated. One became Lemuria and the other became known as Atlantis. And so the landmass known as Atlantis had between 3 and 5 incarnations. There are some channels who say that there were 5 incarnations, rising and fallings of Atlantis. I remember 3. I resonate more with that there were 3 big waves of Atlantis, which was really a grand experiment. It was a grand experiment by the Creator to see if beings could come down and inhabit a physical 3D body and still retain their 5th dimensional and above consciousness to spirit or to source. So when beings came from all around the galaxy to make up and inhabit the community of Atlantis, it was really something that had never been done before, where star beings, I guess we would call them, or beings from all over the place would come and they would incarnate into physical form. And within their physical form, learn to live together, create together, love together, ritual and ceremony, but still retain, and have all the 5 senses, have all the wonderful gifts of being in a human body, the 5 senses, including sexual pleasure, but then also be able to retain their full connection to the fact that they were part of the divine. And that is something that had never been done before. So in each incarnation of Atlantis, it came with very pure intentions, and the beings came with very open, pure energy. They came just with their 12 chakra system fully illuminated, with their auric fields open. They came fully retaining knowledge of who they were. But after a while, ego began to set in. And the what we would call, the dark element, or the dark consciousness began to kind of creep into their awareness and change them from being very connected to the earth, very connected to one another, very connected to source, into what's in it for me type of a mentality. Does that make sense?
Total.
So that's kind of like the Reader's Digest version, I guess, of basically why Atlantis was created, and then what happened in each rising and falling. And in each falling, and Atlantis was killed or was taken down by cataclysms, by natural disasters, in each case. In each one of those instances, the natural disasters were they happened because the earth, they were no longer supporting Mother Earth. They were no longer one with her, and one with the symbiosis that Mother Earth, longs to provide, and nature longs to provide for us. They chose technology, or chose, more ego-driven goals over what was good for all,
Right.
for all people involved.
And if you wanted to, you could say the original concept was almost like the 60s. Then we got into the 70s when the pleasure and the ego started to build up too much. Then the 80s was more of the beginning of what about me? And it continued into the 90s, and we are now choosing more technology over what's good for the earth. But a lot of the people, some people, and it's beginning to grow, thank goodness, are beginning to say, wait a minute, maybe Mother Earth is a little upset with all the strange weather patterns.
Yeah, and we need nature, but nature does not need us.
Exactly. Mother
Nature,
Earth
the
really,
planet will go on with or without us.
yeah,
And if
with,
if we're in the way, if humans are in the way of conscious evolution of this planet, then we're going to be the ones who are going to lose ultimately.
yeah, because, Mother Earth can clean the slate totally,
Right.
i.e., in some way, with everything, and start all over again, get reborn again,
Yeah.
including all the animals, the trees, the plants. All of that can be reborn again.
Right.
The only thing that probably will survive are probably cockroaches. Um, but it really is time for a wake up call of exactly what our intentions are.
Well, and what I believe is, in Atlantis, and the era that I am most connected to is the last incarnation of Atlantis, which is also known as the Golden Age. And that was the true utopian age. And during that incarnation, there were many, many priests and priestesses who
Hmm.
held the energy, who did healing work, who worked in the crystal temples, and really were the that held together the vibration and the frequency of Atlantis. And my belief is that many of us who were there during that time, and many of us who were there when Atlantis fell, have reincarnated
Hmm.
in this spiral of time, in this dimension, to try and change history.
Yes, to to
And
really heal what we were
yeah,
unable
yeah,
to
to
do.
change the outcome this time, because we really are headed in that direction. I think that's pretty evident by what we see taking place all over the planet the earth changes that are happening, and the things that are happening in our technological world. And I think technology is an amazing tool. That's how you and I are doing this
Yes.
conversation today. There's nothing wrong with allowing technology to improve our lives and allow us to have communication in the way that we do. However, there are so many facets of technology that are not really benevolent for the planet or for the beings on here. So my belief is that, and I talked to so many people who really do know that they were priests and priestesses in the temples, and they remember consciously or maybe even subconsciously that something happened, the fall of Atlantis. And part of my goal, or part of my job, the Atlantean High Council, is urging me to talk about Atlantis and anchor it into people's conscious awareness, not just their subconscious. So many of us have the idea or the thought that, okay, we believe Atlantis existed, but what does that mean? And what was my role? And is it really true? And there's subconscious we remember. And part of the way we remember subconsciously that about Atlantis is trauma. Is there are many of us who carry trauma, water trauma,
Yes.
trauma from drowning, or natural disaster trauma. And I believe the majority of that comes from that the subconscious memories of being in Atlantis when it went. So much of my mission is to bring back the conscious awareness and help people to remember who they are in relationship to Atlantis and the Atlantean energies.
And you do a beautiful job. I do remember being in a emerald temple in Atlantis, and it was
Mm-hmm.
absolutely gorgeous. And it was a healing temple that we went to, and we held, healings and ceremonies and rituals there to help others. And you would lay on this bed of emeralds, and the energy was incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
heart
and
healing.
and it was really intense. And I still go back to there in another realm. It's just such a beautiful place to center and ground myself. And if I get too out of whack, I just travel back. The memories of Atlantis are very, very clear for me, and I've known about my connection probably since 2002,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it just it was an amazing time. I do remember a lot of healing work, and it was so natural and so easy. It was just like you just knew that you could do it, and you just did it, and it was so easy and beautiful. Um, I just remember that I had a brother, and but I also remember a lot of times that there were even within the high priestess, there was egos that
Yeah,
were getting clashed,
right,
and it was you didn't understand. At least for me in that lifetime, I didn't understand what the issue was. I didn't understand why people were not or were acting the way they were.
right.
So it was a very interesting time that even then the egos were like a little bit of a competition, and I think that led to a lot of the downfall was that energy of the ego just got so raised up
Mm-hmm.
that it caused everything just to implode as well as explode.
Yeah, yeah.
So with knowledge of the Atlantean age and knowing you were there and holding that energy, how can we change the history as the timeline of as it is going at this point? What are some of the suggestions of what we can do to help?
Well, I believe that ego is just going to be a part of the human experience to some degree or not.
Yeah, it's just keeping it in balance.
Well, keeping it balanced and having an awareness when we are working truly through the one heart of the divine and the greater good, and when we're working in competition. And that it's not always easy to know that delineation. So Spirit has been working with all of us, and we've got lots of extraterrestrial friends and cosmic rays coming in that are attempting to help us learn and help us to embody unity consciousness
Hmm.
and raise our vibration at a higher level. Because the more of us who raise up our vibration and frequency, and the more of us who awaken, the easier it becomes on the earth. Because the earth doesn't have to absorb so much our negativity
Exactly.
and transmute that. So we have been seeing a lot of like little earthquakes happening this year, the last couple months, just little things happening all over. And there's been nothing really very destructive, but like these the plates just clashing and moving together and letting off these energy bursts all over the planet. And while that makes some people nervous, I really believe it's Mother Earth releasing energy to help wake us up.
Yes, and now there is a volcano down in Mexico that is erupting that hasn't erupted in over a
Yeah,
hundred
well, the
year.
volcanoes too. There's a lot of active volcano activity, and although that sounds kind of frightening, what does this all mean? Part of that is the Earth helping us to awaken, using a little bit more drastic
Yes,
measure, to help us to wake up. And there will be cataclysms, and there will be things that happen that will take out different parts of the earth. That's just part of the natural cycle of our planet, and that's part of this process. And there was a time where there was a lot of mystics and sages who really predicted, like, a huge parts of the earth were going to go down and
yes.
destroyed. I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I really don't believe that. I believe that we have awakened enough and raised up enough. We have stopped the really some of that really severe stuff from happening. So, I used to see these maps. Like, I used to read these channels book. There would be these maps of the entire West Coast just gone.
Yes.
For different areas of the earth just, disappearing under the ocean. And I don't feel anymore that it's that's going to be the outcome.
Right.
So the earth will do her purging and the earth will do her cleansing. That will happen, and we will likely have some pretty severe disasterful events that happen, however the next long, however long it takes for us to move through this transition. So how it is already helping is that I personally do not believe it's going to be as drastic as what was once predicted.
No, I don't either. I think it's going to be a lot less. But it's even like the earthquake in Nepal. To me,
Yeah.
it's like waking us up to have more respect for a highly sacred space because we were so not respecting it as we should have.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
there will be groups of people that will have a divine contract to be, to leave when these things
right,
happen. And the important thing to remember is that everything is divinely led. Everything is, and what happens on this planet, and what may happen to some of us on this planet, those beings come in knowing, maybe not consciously knowing, but it's a contract that they have with spirit of what role they're going to play in this evolution. And for some, it will be the role of, no longer being here through the transition.
right, right. And even 9/11, there was a few people that left everything laid out because they knew they weren't coming home.
Yeah,
And it's like there are some that just know that it is time to leave this planet, and it is an agreement before they come down. So it's like with 9/11 and the disappearance of planes and um, all the things that happen with the earth and people dying, it's like that is a natural function of the agreements we came down with.
yeah,
So I do my best to try and calm the fear because a lot of people get so wrapped up in the illusion that we all are experiencing, but it's just the play,
yeah,
and we can rewrite it and change. the outcome at any time.
Yeah, and I really believe that is the goal, is to change the outcome this time around and to create a community in the future. And I don't know how far off in the future it will be, but to create a society that is similar to what was held in Atlantis, where all are cared for,
Yes.
where all needs are met, and that you don't sacrifice the many for the needs of the few any longer.
And it's very interesting over, I would say, the last probably 15 years, so many people wanting to have self-sustained communities that is like off the grid, and so
Yeah,
many people wanting to be off the grid. And it's so easy today with that practical technology of solar and wind and water power. There are so many different ways that we can use what Mother Earth is giving us in a very healthy, beneficial way for us, and make it so it's not so harmful for her.
right.
um, that we can do it. But it's like you said, we the timeline to me, I think, is written in every moment in all the thoughts. I don't
Yeah,
think anything is really written down in stone as clearly as it was before. I mean, there was a few years ago, like in 2005, I went to a prophecy conference, and they were predicting race wars, civil war over race. And it's like, in some ways, you can see the beginning of that, but
yeah,
it can change in a heartbeat if we finally just wake up and say, we're all human, we're all equal, we all are unique and beautiful, and there's no reason to say or do anything against the other.
yeah,
So it is all up to us to wake up and realize that that person in front of you is just a mirror of you in a different form.
right. Yeah. And and so part of my goal or my mission is to teach and talk about Atlantis and the community of Atlantis, and specifically to also talk about the mer world, which is my lineage, being an incarnated mer being.
Now let's talk about that. Number one, how did you figure that out?
Through a past life regression. I was having some really interesting things happening in my body when I would meditate. My arms would move and flow and do these kind of swimmy motions on their own. And then I figured out when I yielded to it that my whole body would move like that. It would just writhe and flow without me do it, like a force internally was doing it for me. And I started, when I would go near somebody and I would yield to it, my arms would do these spirally and circly infinity motions, like I was trying to move energy around somebody. And I had just had a spiritual awakening not too much before that. And I really I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know what was happening to me. And it was kind of freaked me out a little bit. But at the same time, it felt really lovely and really warm, and it felt really right, like familiar. So I went and saw a past life regressionist, and I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea what was going to come through, and I went straight into the ocean in as a mer being.
And how did you feel realizing that you were a mermaid at one time?
I was shocked. I was literally on the couch, like leaping up and down, laying on my back, right, rising up and coming down with my arms over my head like I was swimming. And I was exclaiming, I'm a mermaid, I'm a mermaid. And I swam down, down, down. And I went to, Atlantis under the sea, which I call Merlantis. I don't think that's what we called it, but that's the name. There was Atlantis above, and then there was Merlantis at the bottom of the ocean where the mer beings lived. And the societies were mirrors of each other. So I swam down and saw myself as a merbeing. I saw other merbeings. I completely got to experience the idea that I was living through an incarnation as a merbeing, and that essence of my soul was living through me in this realm.
And now I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this. We have many past lives, and to me, I feel like they're all collapsing so we connect with all the true essences that we've experienced. Do you feel that is accurate?
Yeah, or we connect to the essences that are important to us in this incarnation. They're not all going to be important to us.
Oh no, the ones that align with what we
Yes.
so what did you get from being a mermaid?
What I get from being a merbeing is her name is Ameera. She is as alive and well in that realm as I am in this realm, and she and I have merged etherically to where I feel her part of her essence lives within me in this realm and helps me do my healing work and give my readings and my sessions and connects me and helps me to remember that realm.
And with let's go into this now as you brought up all your healings and all your sessions. What exactly do your sessions consist of?
Well, I do a lot of different things. And, once I had my first past life regression, it influenced and helped my life so dramatically that I became a past life regressionist. So I went back to the same facilitator who gave me my first regression and went through 3 levels of her training. And I've been a past life regression facilitator now for 7 or 8 years. And that's a really big part of my business or part of my work is helping to connect people to these various aspects and essences of their soul that are important to them in this realm. And also helping people to connect to their angels and their spirit guides and receive messages and guidance because I work with hypnosis. And when you're in a state of hypnosis or a trance state, where we're able to access information we don't have in our walking around state.
And I will attest she does wonderful work.
Thank you.
She does do it over the phone and Skype, and that is quite possible to get in a hypnosis trance via phone. And she really does a beautiful job with her work. So, if you're looking to connect to an essence of you that's kind of on the out realms and you want to reconnect to a part of you that you feel like is missing, I definitely highly recommend you get in touch with Amira because it's a very gentle experience as well as altering your perspective and the way you live in so many ways. So it definitely is well worth it. Past life regressions, once you do one, it is really amazing how all of a sudden other parts will pop up through dreams. At least for me, I got, once you open that door really fully and connect with it, for me, I got quite a few other bits of me that came out and I was able to process and get more information. So with this healing, what is the main um, what are some of the main things that you think people are looking for? Just connecting with other parts of themselves? And how is this different than going to a shaman who does a vision quest? Or
Well,
can you
it's
say?
similar actually. In a vision quest, when you do a shamanic journey, it's the shaman will take you on a journey, and it's all internal. The journey's internal.
Hmm.
In a past life regression situation, you and I are having a dialogue. So I'm asking you open ended questions like a reporter, and you would be giving me responses, telling me where you're at, what you look like, what's going on, and what's happening. And I would be basically seeing through your eyes. And so, my having this conversation with you while you're in the trance state and asking questions allows people to go deeper into accessing information than they might be if they were, just left to their own devices. So, if you come to me, like I have a lot of people who come to me for fears or traumas, or they come to me because they want to find out, like, why do I do this, or why do I have this relationship pattern. So that's an intention. It's called an intention. It's very important when you do a regression to have like a reason what you want to know. So we go into lifetime or lifetimes maybe that are most important to that life situation. And then as you go through, you're telling me about what is happening in this other realm or this other world you're visiting. You become that past life person. And at the same time, you're your present life person as well. So you have what's called dual awareness. You're in two realities at once. So we go to the root or to the heart of the situation, and then explore that lifetime, explore all the people in it who influenced it and all the events that influenced it. And at the end, we go to your death. And the reason we go to a death in a past life is because what we die with, like the what we're thinking, the promises and vows we made, the regrets we have, we often carry those forward into next lives. So when those are stated out loud, well, this I was thinking this when I died, or I promised I would never do that again, at the time of my death. Then we bring in your angels and we do a little kind of group therapy, and we talk
Yes.
about healing and resolving the past life person's, whatever their pain or their fear or their trauma is, and that healing translate out into the present life person because they're the same. They're one.
And it is amazing the conversation that does go on.
Yeah,
Now, you can also get in touch with future visions of yourself, correct?
sure. Absolutely.
Because we're all connected in all directions of time. There's no reason why you can't go forward and see if things don't work out better.
Well, I'm talking to your future life person and just saying, this is where I would like to go.
Yeah.
Having that future life person talk to you about the path to get there, what to clear or what to know, because there's timelines and we always follow the timeline that has the strongest energy. But timelines change because we have free will.
Exactly.
And we also live on multiple timelines at once. So every time we make a major decision, or even a minor decision, but mostly the major decisions, we break off a new timeline, but the old timeline is still there. It's existing side by side in a parallel to the new timeline with the new decision. So for a while, we're writing two or maybe more timelines, based on what we've decided. And then eventually the original timeline might kind of fall away because there's no energy behind it, and the new timeline takes precedence. But we can actually go to our potential future self and say, what is the best, most helpful, most direct way for me to get from A to B to C?
Yeah. Um, and that isn't a bad way to go. It speed up your process and give you clarity, and that's what I think a lot of people are looking for is that clarity
Well, it's conscious
of
creation, it's conscious
yeah,
creation and being and acting as a creator.
which is always good. Um, so what are some of the other ways that you think people can help themselves these days, or what other services do you think that people are really needing these days?
Well, when I started going into my past lives as a mer being, and I was a mer being that would come up out of the water and shape shift and grow legs. And then I would walk into the Temple of Poseidon. I did most of my work in the Temple of Poseidon underneath the temple in the healing spaces. And I saw myself in many past life experiences. I remembered what I did in those lifetimes to help people with their energy and their chakras. I remembered healing 12 chakras. I remember doing oral work, using color and light therapy, using the rays, using the elements. And when I started remembering those gifts, I developed a mode of energy healing I call the sacred touch of Atlantis, because that's where it originated from for me. And I brought that forward into this lifetime, and that's a service that I offer as well, to help people. We all need help energetically, and aura work is very, very important because that's where we carry all of our, or most of our information and most of the different imprints and things that are coming through. And so helping people to clear their auric fields, to clear and balance their 12 chakras. And I do a lot of specific work on lower chakras, on solar plexus, sacral chakra, and root chakra, and earth star chakra, which I feel are the most important for humans.
Well, those are the more personal chakras, should we
Yeah.
say? The other ones are, everybody wants to get to their heart and their
Yeah.
throat, and it's like this is your grounding center down below your solar plexus, folks. So if you're not grounded in your physical reality, you can always go flying all over the place, but you're not going to do too well in your human existence if you're not grounded.
Yeah, and that's where all the hard stuff is too, all the tough stuff.
Yes, that's where the
All the
lessons
tough stuff
are.
that makes us human are really stored in the lower chakras. And so yes, our foundation, and we're human beings, we're in a physical body. And so doing lower chakra clearing and balancing and releasing, many of us have family, tribal lessons and imprints, and maybe lessons around sex and sexuality that we've brought forward in this life and other lifetimes. And learning, to be in our authentic power is the basis for us growing, to be able to grow as spiritual beings.
Exactly. There's something else that you can connect, by the way, you can connect to Ameera Beth on Facebook. She has several groups. You have a couple groups on Facebook now, don't you?
I have a Facebook group called Women Who Dance with the Moon. That is really a group for women who just want to come together and share the magic of, being creatures that are strongly led by the waters in our body and the moon energy. And it's a lovely support group where, people chime in and post in what's helping them, support type of situations. And I talk a lot about moon energy. So I have that group. And then the other groups that I have on Facebook are more related to the retreats that I do. And so they're open to those who go on to my retreats to Kauai with me. But I do have a Facebook page, Ameera Beth Transpersonal Healer, that I would love to have you all find me on. That's the best way to learn about me and to get some of my information.
And so there's also, you were talking about the moon. So, how does the moon, are you connected more with the moon because of the mer being?
I believe so. All women are connected to the moon. For me specifically, I remember having a trident, a very large trident, and I'm actually having a replica of that trident being recreated for me out of copper. And I would come up when the moon was full or at strong points of the moon phase, and I would come up onto the beach under the moon, and I would take my trident and place it in the sand and call out ceremony, call out to the moon, and I would make it rain. Or I would create a weather pattern that was conducive to whatever we needed at that part of Atlantis for the time. And I remember my beloved, my twin flame behind me, with fire, doing a fire ceremony. So we would use the water and we would use the fire, most specifically, and help to create weather patterns that were conducive to what Atlantis needed at that time. And that would be by harnessing the energy of the moon.
And it's beautiful. Now, you mentioned your retreats, so I want to make sure to talk about your retreats. They take place in Kauai, correct?
Yes, and my next one is in September called The Flames of Pele and the Sacred Touch of Atlantis.
And let's talk about Pele. She is one powerful goddess.
Yes.
When I went to Maui, I connected with her. She she was powerful.
Yeah, and the last time
Intense.
in Kauai, I was in Kauai in February for my birthday, putting together this retreat, and I went into the water to come up. When I go into the water, I go into the ocean to have the ocean tell me what to call my retreats and give me information about what energy to bring into my retreats. And Pele very clearly asked me to name this retreat for her and to integrate fire along with the water element.
And that's also, in a sense, honoring your twin flame.
It is, which is, my twin flame is me, of course, because
Right?
some of us have a literal twin flame, but we all have that twin flame and that beloved within. My strongest elements happen to be fire and water. So it's really taking both of those powerful elements, which some think are opposing forces, but they're really not. They're equal and they're complementary when you know how to, weave them and honor their power individually. They can both be used together to create something pretty transformative.
So, how long is your retreat and what exactly takes place?
So the retreat is September 24th through the 29th. It's 5 nights and 6 days on the island of Kauai. And if you want a little more information on the retreat specifically, go to merjourneys.com and the full website with the itinerary is there. But I'm bringing a group together, and this is going to be men and women registering this time around to work with the elements of fire and water on the beach to help our waters. There is nothing more important on this planet than our oceans, and purifying our oceans and cleansing them, and remembering that we're 70% water and the earth is 70% water. So working with the vibration of the water element and doing that with the transmutation and that transformative power of fire energy, because fire is for transmutation, it's for purification, and it's for creation. A lot of people think fire is destructive,
Mm-mm.
but fire is actually for creation and recreation. And the legend of Pele goes, the islands of Hawaii were created, the lava rocks were created through her tears as she wept over her tumultuous love life. And so what she teaches us is how our emotions, if they're not grounded, can become destructive. They can kind of go out of control. And she teaches us to channel our inner fire, to channel our inner emotions to create something beautiful instead of something that could be destructive. And of course, we have the amazing Hawaiian Islands that Kauai is my soul home. And it's also the heart of Lemuria. It's the heart of Lemurian energy. So bringing Atlantis, which is my soul, to Lemuria, and bringing those masculine and feminine elements together, like the fire and water is the masculine and feminine, and helping others, helping those on the retreat to go into a deeper balancing of their twin within, or their beloved within, and their masculine and feminine energies is kind of the heart of the intention of the retreat.
And balancing that alone can just uplift and change your life so many, many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's all part of the vibration and the frequency raising. And for us to know that, human beings want love and relationships, that's just a part of how we're all made up. But having the realization that we are whole and complete, we've always been whole and complete, and there's nobody outside of us who can ever complete us.
And
We've
that's
got to have that realization for ourselves that we're born whole and complete is very important.
and it's amazing how many people wonder who's going to complete me. And when you say you can do it yourself. You don't need
Yeah.
somebody out. They go, no, that's not right. I need, and
Yeah, well, we're raised with the fairy tales and we're raised with the, Jerry Maguire mentality of you complete me. And we're kind of taught from the time we're small kids that we're broken or that we're incomplete. We're not taught and told that we're divine and that we're whole and complete just as we are. We're taught it takes something outside of us to help us bring that completion. So remembering that we were already there the whole time, despite what may have happened to us, that has sort of taught us otherwise. And reclaiming that masculine and feminine and that perfection within us is a really important part of the evolution of this planet.
it really is. And respecting both parts and understanding that each part can really support the other in such a beautiful, creative magic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is so much healing energy in that's available out there just within yourselves, and I I'm a healer as myself, and the changes that happens when you're working with somebody else and you get that aha moment, it's it's glorious for the healer as well as the one being healed.
Yeah.
Because there is a mirroring effect, and even though we just channel the energy, we do get a healing. At least when I'm doing Reiki, I know I'm getting some of the energy as it's passing through me.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the best benefits of being a Reiki practitioner.
And it's just like it is amazing um, to do it. And doing hypnosis and NLP for me has really shown me different ways to even help my clients if it's just an intuitive call. So when you're just talking with someone, do you sense that you're changing your wording as you're talking to someone?
Changing my wording, you mean as it pertains or helps them?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. And anytime when you work with divine source, the words flow through you. The words are given to you, and they're given to you in a way that is going to be the most conducive to the person in front of you of how they need to hear it and
Ex-
what they need to hear.
and they don't always like it, but that's what they need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and how long have you been doing the healing work again, Amira?
Gosh, 8, 9 years.
And um, for anyone who wants, I am rebuilding my websites. So I had to take them all down. So I am rebuilding, and I do plan to get Amira's interview back up, because she also on that interview did a wonderful grounding meditation for us that I use daily, and I thank you
Oh,
for it.
nice.
It's very easy, and I go outside underneath the stars and I do the grounding star upward, and I actually see a spiral of energy expand outward when I'm doing it. So I continue to ground myself till I see the spiral, because until that goes out, I know I'm not really completely done. So I will be putting that back out there, because that was an amazing things. Now, do you still have some on your websites? Because I haven't looked completely through it in a little bit. Do you still have some of your other interviews and other meditations and other products on your website?
I do. I have meditations. I have a webinar up there, an aura clearing webinar that teaches and talks about all the different kinds of auric attachments and things that happen in our auric field that dilute our energy and how to heal that, how to view into that and how to see that for yourself. And then I've got all my services listed. Um, I don't have any interviews up there. I actually have started now. This will be my third month of doing. I have a blog talk radio show. And so then my next blog talk radio show, which is called Tales from the Mer World, will happen on the 29th of this month. at 6 o'clock Pacific Central Time. And so those are all stored on the Blog Talk Radio website, and then I post them up, post the links up after I'm done. But that's another way just to get a little bit of more of my information or insights into who I am and what I do. And this next Blog Talk Radio show, I want to talk more about Atlantis. That's really a big thing for me right now, and a little bit more about my retreat intentions. And I always encourage people to call in. It's a lot more fun to do a radio show when people call in and want to ask questions.
Yes, especially if you don't have a guest and to talk for. How long is your show?
About an hour.
Yeah, to talk an hour can be kind of. I've done it.
It too. But
And
it's much more enjoyable when people want to talk back to you.
if you ever need someone to ask you questions, just let me know ahead of time. I'll pop on.
Oh,
Uh,
perfect.
I know how it is. I've had many times when a guest cancels at the last moment, and it's like, are you just going to cancel or what? And I go, no, let's just wing it. And
Uh-huh.
that's when you say, all right, Spirit, you got a message. Let's just let it pour out. And you hope it covers the whole hour.
Right.
Um, so we are coming to the end of this hour. So one more time, why don't you let people know how to get in touch with you, um, and your social media.
Okay, so you can find me at ameerabeth.com. That's my website. My retreat website is merjourneys.com, and I still have a few openings left if you'd like to go to Kauai with me in September. Ameera Beth Transpersonal Healer is my Facebook webpage. And those are the three best ways to find out about me or to get in touch with me. I can see people by phone or by Skype if you're not in the Southwest Washington area. If you are in the Portland, Vancouver area, then you can, of course, have a session with me in the Mer room. Mer room.
That's a tongue twister.
That was a hard one. And so, yeah, I would love to have any kind of a feedback or meet any of you that are listening in and talk about Atlantis.
As always, Ameera, you dazzle me with information and insights, and again, I can tell you firsthand, highly recommend you get a session with her. It is well worth the time and the money. She will enlighten you and open you up to whole new dimensions of possibilities and creation. And again, thank you very much for everything you do and all that you be.
Thank you very much, Jen, for having me on again. This was really, really fun. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. So until next time, with each breath of air, we hope you gain new insights and information. Until then, many blessings and keep smiling.